What's our first topic today?
First one up is the Purple Paladin. I've been a big fan of Werner Herzog as a filmmaker for a long time and got really excited when I heard he was going to be in The Mandalorian. Just saw that he confirmed that he was going to be the villain in the show. So my question, gentlemen, is what do you think about the Hertz as the baddie? Thanks, and bring on
The
that
Hertz.
filthy.
The Herz, the Vern. Rob, you're hearing about this. We've all been excited about The Mandalorian. What do you think about the Hertz being the villain in The Mandalorian?
You know, we've seen the Hertz be a villain before. He was a villain in the first Jack Reacher movie.
Yes, he was.
And I love the Hertz. I mean, he's watching his documentary films, watching his films as a feature filmmaker. I mean, I love this guy's presence. I think he's got exactly what is needed. He's going to bring his great German accent to the proceedings. And I love the guy. I mean, he can do no wrong in my book. I think he'll be a great villain. And do we know he's even playing a human being? Who knows? Maybe
is he playing a human being? Is he a voice of a CG character? I guess we don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I love his voice. I bring it on. I'm going to call him the Hertz from now on.
Now, just where this is all coming from is Herzog was just talking and he said this. He goes, now, this is not a secret anymore. A small part, really small part in The Mandalorian, the Star Wars sequel or whatever you call it. Sounds like something Werner Herzog would say, or whatever you call it. I like to act because I'm gonna stop doing a Werner impersonation. I like to act because I know I'm good on screen, but only if I have to play a real villain. I love that. This dude is badass. How badass is Werner Herzog? I'll tell you how badass he is. There was this one time you probably know this story, Rob, but there's this one time Werner Herzog was being interviewed because he's also well known as a documentarian filmmaker, a narrative filmmaker, all this kind of stuff. And he's got this badass accent. Like, it just makes me fear. Like, look at this guy. If he came to you and said, you owe me money, you're gonna, even if you've never met him before, you're just gonna pull money out of your wallet. But there's this legendary story about Werner Herzog, for those of you who not heard it. He was being interviewed by the BBC and they were standing outside. It was in some European country, and they were standing outside, and he's being interviewed. They're standing, and the BBC guys, and all of a sudden you hear, and Werner Herzog looks down. What was that? Oh, I've been shot. He was shot while doing an interview. He was shot while doing an interview, and all the BBC guys are going, whoa, whoa. He goes, and Werner's like, it's not a significant bullet. And he just tries to go on with the interview. Like, meanwhile, the BBC guys are running around. Where'd that come from? All this kind of stuff. Werner's like, it's not a significant bullet. And then he just goes on. He just continues doing the thing. But there's this other iconic story where one of his earlier films, I think it was like the early 1970s, he did this film called Wrath of God. And I'm trying to remember the name.
Yeah, that with Klaus Kinski.
Kinski, it was, right. So apparently he was doing this movie called Wrath of God with Klaus Kinski. And Kinski was notorious for being completely melodramatic on screen and very temperamental. Like, you think Christian Bale, oh, good for you. You think Christian Bale is bad? This guy would freak out. He once shot a gun at a tent where like production hands were because they were playing cards too loud and blew off the finger of a production assistant. But anyway, apparently Kinski got completely irritated because he didn't like the way one of the cameramen was smiling. And he decided, that's it, I'm quitting the film, which would have ruined the movie, right? So anyway, Werner Herzog, this is how badass this guy is. Werner Herzog tells this story. I went up to, now understand this in his heavy, heavy accent. I went up to him very composed and I said, you can't do this. The movie is more important than our personal emotions, even more important than our persons. And this can't be permitted. This simply will not be. And he said, no, I'm leaving now. So I told him I had a rifle. There would be 8 bullets in his head, and the 9th would be in mine. He instinctively knew that wasn't a joke anymore, and he was very disciplined during the last days of shooting. Oh my God!
John, there's a documentary about the relationship between Klaus Kinski and Werner Herzog called My Best Fiend.
Friend, yes. Which you guys gotta see. I want to hang out with this guy, and I'll be terrified of him every single moment that I do. And whenever I bring up Werner Herzog, I've got to mention this little movie, little comedy. Now, I'm a poker guy. A lot of people know that, but there's this little movie he did a bunch of years ago with Woody Harrelson called The Grand. And it's all about this high-stakes poker tournament. And Werner Herzog plays one of the poker players in it, right? And I often talk about the funniest things I've ever seen in movies. And I'll often talk about Spaceballs, Now Lone Star, you'll see the evil will always triumph because good is dumb. We talk about Blazing Saddles with Where the White Women At. We talk about all these funniest moments. One of the funniest, probably top 7 funniest moments ever in a film to me. The Grand is treated like one of these documentary style movies where it's a narrative movie, but they treat it as if, kind of like The Office. They treat it like The Office. Like it's a behind the scenes documentary. So Werner Herzog, he comes and shows up for this high stakes poker tournament. And as he's checking into the hotel, you see the valets bringing just cages and cages of animals to his room as well. And whenever they're interviewing him in the documentary, he's always sitting in the chair petting an animal. Like whether it's some kind of chicken and he's talking about his strategy for the poker. Or then the next time they're talking, he's stroking a rabbit. And I just never forget, they go back to him and they say, you've been playing poker for decades. What's the secret to your success? He goes, it is important to maintain vitality. Therefore, every day I must kill one living thing with my hands. And it's like only Werner Herzog could say that. And so anyway, all of that is simply to say the notion of a Werner Herzog being the bad guy in The Mandalorian to me is just beyond perfect. It's beyond perfect.
I don't know if I'd run for him or if I want him to adopt me. I'm not sure.
It's one of the two. I was going to ask if you ever worked with a director like that, Ashley.
No, but but I wouldn't mind. He sounds amazing.
No one's threatened to put 8 bullets in your head and then 1 in his own. Oh my God!
In a serious way, I'd be like, okay, I'll start again tomorrow. I'm so sorry.
I mean, the 2 biggest badasses the world has ever known, Mr. Rogers and Werner Herzog. There you go.